Mariners have given us, well, plenty of time to talk about a ton of free agents and trade targets, but is there anyone we've glossed over? We'll answer that and more coming up here on Mailbag Monday. Colby, hit it.
You are Locked On Mariners, your daily Seattle Mariners podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Ahoy, sailors. It is Monday, December 29th, 2025. You're listening to the Locked On Mariners podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. My name is Titan Gonzalez, and I'm joined as always by my co-host Colby Patnode. We're two lifelong Mariners fans who've been covering the team for over half a decade. And today, for the last time in 2025, we're opening up the mailbag like we do here every Monday and answering some of your Mariners questions. Before we get into this week's batch, though, I want to shout out our title sponsor today, FanDuel. If you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. Kicking us off here on Mailbag Monday is Absolute Unit. They want to know who's someone who makes a ton of sense for the Mariners to go get. There's been almost no talk about this year. What's a realistic contract / package to acquire? Well, Colby, I feel like we've talked about everyone, but is there someone maybe that we've glossed over a bit more than others?
No, like not if you want to use the strictest interpretation of what the Mariners are looking for. And I mean, it's obvious why you would be doing that because they've come out and said, this is specifically what we want. And there's only so many players who fit that criteria. We're talking about a guy who can play in the infield. They would really like him to be right-handed. They would, like the bat to be good enough that he could also be the DH if Emerson and Young really pop. And there's like 4 guys that fit that criteria, and we've talked about them all. So unless you're willing to expand the view to look for these players, then no, there's really not. But should the Mariners be willing to expand their wish list? Yes, they have to be, because at the end of the day, the Mariners' only focus above everything else should be to get better. And right now, this is a team that needs to get better to accomplish what they want to accomplish. So if you want to look at it strictly from who's a right-handed hitting or switch hitting infielder who can play second or third, but then is also a good enough hitter that they could be the primary DH if we really need them to, if Emerson pops, if Young pops, there's like 3 or 4 of those guys in baseball that are actively available right now. There's Gino, there's Ketel Marte. Donovan doesn't even hit right-handed, so like that's already not an ideal fit. And then we've talked about the Vientoses and the Royce Lewises and the risks that come with them, the Alec Bohms. Like there's a risk that comes with them. So unless you're willing to expand what you're looking for, no, there's really not a lot of unexplored avenues. But if we are willing to expand, I have somebody in mind that is completely outside the box and we haven't talked about for 1 second.
Hit me.
Sure. The player, and here's the caveat, he is not known to be readily available.
Okay.
TJ
I think
Friedl.
that works with it. Okay, TJ Friedl. Yeah, I think that works within the spirit of this question.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
TJ Friedl is a left-handed hitting, outfield only player. The complete opposite of what the Mariners have said that they wanted. But keep in mind, TJ Friedl is a on-base machine. You get him for 3 years, 1 more than Donovan. He has a 4-win season under his belt, something that Donovan does not have at the moment. And this works because you can have Friedl play left field. He's played center field for the Reds. He's okay out there, but he is going to be much better in left field in a corner. And that would move Randy Arozarena to be the primary DH. So you kind of fulfill your DH with somebody in hand, but you also improve because now you have a legitimate leadoff hitter. You have a guy who will improve the run prevention aspect of your team, something that needs to be improved anyways. He's a pretty good base runner. He's got pop. It's not 20 home run power, but it's, 14, 15 home run power. He's going to draw a lot of walks. Here's the fun thing. In his career, there have been no splits, righty lefty. He is the same hitter against both handedness. Last year was better against righties. So, we'll see if that continues or not. But over the big sample of his entire career, he's been a 107 WRC plus hitter against lefties, a 107 WRC plus against righties. Like there's no splits issues there. He gets on base. He can hit first or second. He's a left-handed hitting outfield only. And so if you're only focused on guys who can hit right-handed or guys who can play second or third, Friedl doesn't fit at all. When you look at the pieces independent of that and you expand what you need an everyday bat to add to this lineup, preferably one who hits at the top or the middle of your order. Friedl accomplishes that. And when you look at kind of how you can structure this thing, if you have JP Crawford, a guy who hits lefties, he's a left-handed bat who hits lefties, hitting 9, and you have Friedl hitting 1 as kind of the wraparound. You have 2 guys who are going to have 350 plus on base percentages that both hit lefties and righties at the top of your lineup to hit in front of Cal, Julio, Naylor, Randy, who's now hitting 5th or 6th for you. So Friedl is the guy who is kind of like this. We haven't talked about him. We don't even know if he's available. The Reds have made a couple of moves this weekend that, they have, I think, 7 outfielders right now on their 26-man roster. There are probably other guys that would rather move, but Friedl is going to get them the most. And the Reds are also a team that, they're legitimately cheap. And they've talked about, we don't have a ton of money to spend over the cap. We have some. Friedl's making $5 million this year. He's going to make 8 to 10 next year, and then he's going to make 15. Like, he's a player who's going to be too expensive. And he's 29, 30. Like, he's not exactly in his prime. He's, kind of a late bloomer type of guy. So TJ Friedl is the guy. Like, if you're looking to expand this definition and you're willing to look beyond handedness, beyond position, like, Friedl is the bat that we haven't talked about at all that would impact this Mariners team, because again, you improve your outfield defense, you get your leadoff hitter or your second or your number 2 hitter or whatever. And you get them for only $5 million, really the idea is very similar to Donovan, except Donovan can play in the infield and Friedl can't. So You probably still prefer Donovan. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying you should target Friedl over Donovan, but if you like the idea of Donovan and what he brings to the table, you should be at least somewhat interested in what Friedl brings to the table, because very similar profiles overall to what they do offensively. So you have to think outside the box if you're not going to land one of these Martes or Donovans or Genos. Think outside the box. Go get an outfielder. Even though you say you're fine with your outfield, go get one and push Randy to the DH spot, which is probably where he belongs anyways. I think Friedl is a good candidate for this.
Going back to the third base DH realm, there is one guy that we haven't really talked about much, but he's nowhere even close to like the TJ Friedls of the world here. This is not an exciting option. It's just a guy that we probably should mention a bit more than we have. That's Yoan Moncada, because the Mariners did have interest in him last winter. He is a switch hitter, but is it only in name? Who knows? Because like his splits are all over the place. This year with the Angels, he only got 27 plate appearances against lefties as a righty hitter, and he didn't do well in those opportunities. But historically, he's been a 94 WRC plus against lefties as a right-handed hitter. And in a few seasons, he's actually been better against lefties than he's been against righties. So I'm not really sure like what the case is there. I mean, the big thing with Moncada, of course, is the health. He just has not been able to stay healthy at all. He has not been able to stay on the field over the last few years, even this year. But in the opportunities that he did actually get to play this year, he was pretty good. Of course, I was pretty much exclusively against righties as a lefty hitter, but he slashed 234, 336, 448. So 117 WRC plus. And if you're looking to kind of replace what Jorge Polanco gave you exactly with like the switch hitting presence and all that, maybe Moncada is the shot to take there. But is that an acceptable pivot from Brendan Donovan and Ketel Marte? No. To me, like if you're going out and getting Moncada, you need to do something on top of Moncada. And I'm not sure the Mariners would be willing to do that. I think if they got Moncada, that would be probably it.
Yeah, Moncada is very similar to the idea of Polanco last winter. Yeah. It's like probably $5 to $7 million. at least Moncada hit last year, whereas Polo going into this year hadn't hit the year before, but both have injury concerns. Both are 30, both, declining defensive players. Although I will say Moncada was one of the worst third basemen, if not the worst third baseman in all of baseball last year. He was hurt. Like, it was an outlier defensive season. He's actually mostly fine at third base defensively.
Yeah.
But the hope there is that Moncada comes in, he does what he's done the last 2 years, granted in only like 110 games combined, but whatever. And he's a 115 to 120 WRC plus bat who handles third base. And if Colt Emerson comes up and proves that he's an everyday player as a rookie, then Moncada becomes the primary DH. And you're happy with that. So Moncada is kind of that, like, hey, if we strike out on everybody else, at the end of the day, we need to add veteran bat. We need to add a bat. And even if it's not going to be pretty, even if it's going to, not excite people, we still need to add that presence. Moncada is the guy to go get. So we'll see if he's around long enough for the Mariners to make that pivot. But yeah, Moncada is a guy who makes a good deal of sense with obvious risk. But again, you have to add a bat. Like, there is no like, oh, well, we missed on Gino and Marte and Donovan. I guess we'll just roll with the young guys. Not acceptable.
Yeah. But to me, you got to do something else on top of Moncada if that is your answer for that specific role, because you can't count on him. Right. You can't. Like, it's a fine shot to take, for $5 to $7 million, whatever it winds up being, but you need more certainty in your lineup, and Moncada doesn't bring that. All right, we will answer more of your questions in just a moment, but first, a reminder: this episode of the Locked On Mariners podcast is brought to you by FanDuel. Fridays already feel different during basketball season, and FanDuel is making them even better. Every Friday night before the games tip off, FanDuel gives fans a new way to kick off the weekend with NBA Happy Hour. NBA Happy Hour is your official pregame, a limited time window where special offers drop right inside the FanDuel app before the action starts. Fridays from 6 to 7:30 Eastern have become appointment viewing with NBA Happy Hour. Opening the FanDuel app during Happy Hour always brings something new: boosts, bonuses, and surprises. It's easy to check the weekly special before tip-off and make a move before the window closes. The timing is perfect, right before the games, right before the weekend starts. It adds extra energy to Friday night basketball without overthinking it. So before tip-off, check the FanDuel app and see what's dropping during NBA Happy Hour. Every Friday from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Eastern. A little basketball, a little action, and a whole lot of Friday energy. That's NBA Happy Hour only on FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NBA. And you're listening to the Locked On Mariners podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you so much for making us your first listen for all things Mariners, and also thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. You already live your team every day. Now take it up a level and go ad-free. Join the Everydayer Club today and get Locked On Mariners with no interruptions, members-only Discord access, and more, all for just $5 a month or $50 a year. Go to lockedonmariners.supercast.com or check the link in the show notes to learn more. Our next question here on Mailbag Monday comes from Dumper, who wants to know, as it stands, where do the Mariners rank in the AL for you? If they were to add an impact infielder, how many spots do they jump? Okay, so who do I think is better than the Mariners right now in the American League? I think the Blue Jays are better. Yeah, I think the Blue Jays are better. Boston. Yeah. Is that it?
Maybe New York.
Yeah,
Baltimore's gotten better. I don't trust their rotation though.
I don't think they've closed the gap with the Mariners.
I don't either. Houston could end up being better, but as their roster sits right now, it's not.
Yeah, a lot of questions on the rotation.
Yeah, I would say at best they're third, but depending on how the rest of the offseason goes, they could be fifth or sixth.
Yeah.
So
I would say if they get Brendan Donovan, I think they jump the Red Sox. I don't know if they jump the Blue Jays. If they get Ketel Marte, I think they jump both. Next question here from Nate wants to know, sorry to get back to Donovan like you guys. I just want to see him traded somewhere. With that said, do you remember a potential deal taking this long? Seems like if something is going to happen, Jerry DiPoto gets it done relatively quick or even out of the blue.
Yeah, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, they've been working on this for a month, 6 weeks. Like, it seems longer because, again, we've all talked about it so much and there's been so many reports that all just say the same thing. But like in the grand scheme of things, I don't think this has taken all that long. It's just talked about way more. And there are a lot more like needless updates that aren't actually updates. So yeah, I think it's an over-reported thing. I don't know that it's taking any longer than any other trades. I mean, we know, like, for example, the Josh Naylor trade took 3 weeks, and that was in the middle of the season with a deadline coming up. And there is no deadline for this. So I don't know that it's actually taking all that long. It seems like it is. But I think it's just because of all the reporting on it more than anything. But yeah, the Mariners have been known to, go after guys for years until they get them or they don't. And sometimes they don't, sometimes they never get them. So yeah, it's just tough for us to say because we don't know, like, hey, they tried for 4 months to trade for Randy Arozarena or something like we don't know that. But yeah, it seems longer than others. Sure. I just don't know that it actually is.
Next question here from Byron. What are the chances things have been so quiet because we are waiting for Castillo's no trade clause to expire? I mean, based on everything that's been reported about the rotation and Castillo specifically, I'd say the odds are pretty low on that.
Yeah.
But I have wondered, I've that thought has crept in the back of my mind of like, hey, could we just like see something randomly drop about Castillo on January 2nd, 3rd, whatever?
Mm-hmm.
Like maybe, and maybe that's part of this whole like Ketel Marte puzzle. But in general, I think Castillo's here to stay as far as 2026 goes.
Yeah, I'd be pretty surprised if they traded him this winter. Not shocked. Not that there's much of a delineation there, but like, I'd be, maybe a little surprised. So I don't think that's what's holding anything up. I can't rule it out entirely, but I really don't think that's what's happening here. And in any sense, we'll know whether or not that's true in, 2-3 days, maybe 4 days. So yeah, I don't think that's what's happening here, but I can't say for sure that it's not a factor. It just doesn't feel like it based on everything that's being said. But then again, based on everything that was being said, like, in late November of last year, I would have told you I'd be shocked if Castillo was on the opening day roster. So who knows? But right now I would say no, I don't think that's actually a thing that's happening.
And you're listening to the Locked On Mariners podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. As always, if you want to hear from me and Colby even more and help support the show, we have a Patreon. It's called Control the Zone, and on there we talk Mariners, Seahawks, all that good stuff. For more information, go to patreon.com/Control the Zone. Link in the description of this episode. Our next question here on Mailbag Monday comes from Mariners to the Moon. We've seen reporting saying that the Diamondbacks might be willing to make a Marte trade a 3-team deal and send prospects elsewhere to get a return that they like. Could a 3-team trade surrounding Gore to Arizona, so talking about MacKenzie Gore, plus prospects to both Washington and Arizona and Marte to Seattle work?
Yeah, it's possible. Miami, also a team that's shopping some starting pitching as well. The interesting thing with like Pittsburgh and Miami is that right now they're fringe playoff contenders, like for a wild card spot. So wouldn't they just want Marte? If they're footing the bulk of the price tag by giving up, a major league ready starting pitcher or an established major league starting pitcher, they're going to be like, okay, well, we'll just take Marte. We don't want prospects. So
are the Pirates willing to take on $93 million guaranteed of a 32-year-old?
I mean, the Pirates, for as much as they've done this, and good for them for going out and actually doing stuff. I don't want to pat them on the back too hard, first time in 3 decades, but they literally just handed out the most expensive free agent contract they've ever given out. And it was for 2 years, $29 million. So I don't think Marte works for them. The Nationals, maybe. But I suppose if the Nationals are going to get the prospects they want for Gore, they don't really care. And obviously Marte doesn't work for them. They're not contenders anytime soon. So maybe the Washington Nationals are the best option here for a 3-team deal. because they do have starting pitching. They don't care if they win next year. They are willing to take prospects, pure prospects. So yeah, Washington's probably the best fit. If you wanted us to craft a trade, that probably take a little too much time, more time than we have today. But
Yeah.
I think in general, that's something that could work. The Mariners, for as often as we praise them for being creative and finding solutions, they don't make many 3-team trades. I don't remember the last one that they made. Like, technically, the Shed Long trade was not a 3-team trade. But like,
I don't think they've made a tradition. I don't think Jerry Dipoto has made a traditional 3-team trade at the helm in Seattle. Like, he's made like pseudo 3-team deals where he's like
the Shed Long trade, basically, and then
there was
Malik
the Malik Smith, the first Malik Smith trade, not the second one. Yeah, the one that flipped him to Tampa. I was trying to remember where.
An hour and a half later.
But that's what I mean. Like, he's made trades for guys that he's wound up flipping like an hour or two later. But he hasn't actually made it. I don't think he's made a traditional 3-team deal
where everything's done at once. Again, he basically has. So does it really matter if it's a true 3-team trade or if it's just hey, give us MacKenzie Gore and now we're gonna go work this side deal?
Yeah.
Doesn't really matter, I suppose. But yeah, I don't think he's made like a traditional, like, announced 3-team trade as the Mariners GM. So this would be something new if he did it that way. But yeah, I think it's possible. I think it's a good call out there. Sure.
Yeah, it's just, again, if you're trading the best second baseman in all of baseball, and Ketel Marte, I get like you have Corbin Carroll and Geraldo Perdomo, but still, like, you're probably not going to be very good next year. Why are you trading for 2 years of MacKenzie Gore?
I mean, it's not the Mariners' job to care about.
No, I know that. I'm just from the Diamondbacks' perspective, though. I don't.
Sure, but as we've seen, like, they've been very clear about this. Like, that seems to be something they think they can do. And so you just have to meet them where they're at in the moment, even if they're delusional. Yeah. So it is kind of one of those weird, like, I don't get why. Basically, what the Diamondbacks really want to have happen is they want the Juan Soto package for a non-Juan Soto player. And that's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen. And I'm talking about when the Padres traded him to the Yankees. Yeah. Where they got King and then they got a prospect who they then flipped for Dylan Cease. Like, they want that to happen this winter. Not going to happen. Ketel Marte is not that guy.
All right, last question of the day comes from Side Eye Dumper. Who would you prefer in the utility infielder role, Ben Williamson or Leo Rivas?
Rivas is a switch hitter. He's actually been a more productive offensive player at the big league level. He's a better base runner.
Gives you a better at bat overall.
Mm-hmm. And better plate appearance.
Yeah.
Like, to me, honestly, I think maybe a better question is Miles Mastrobuoni or Williamson, because Mastrobuoni's out of options. So he has to make the big league team where he's going to go on waivers, and pretty good chance he sneaks through. But like, don't you trust Miles Mastrobuoni at the plate right now more than you do Ben Williamson? Because I do.
Yeah.
And you can always stash Williamson down in AAA and not lose him. So
at best, it's probably a push offensively right now.
And again, Mastrobuoni can play in the outfield. He can play a little bit of second. He can play some third. Right now, we don't know. We don't know if Williamson can do any of those things. Well, we know he can play third, but like, certainly we don't know that he can hit in the out. He can hang in the outfield. I'm pretty sure he could handle shortstop and second, but he hasn't been asked to, so who knows?
Yeah. I mean, I feel good about him playing other positions. It's just we haven't seen him do it.
Right. I mean, like, I felt great about Cole Young going from shortstop to second base, and statistically speaking, he was the worst second baseman in baseball last year, defensively. Now, again, I have to believe most of that was
dealing with a shoulder.
Right. Yeah. I have to believe that, because there's no way you go from a average shortstop to, a 30 grades defender at second base unless there's something, affecting that. There's just no way.
Yeah.
So, but again, it's not like you can't just snap your fingers and be like, oh, well, he was really good at third, so he'll be good at second. Like, nope, that's not a guarantee. So Just like it doesn't work the other way. Ask Jorge Polanco. So, yeah, I don't really have much interest in Williamson being on the opening day roster, just in general. But if he was going to be, he's probably is a third base only because that's all we know he can do right now. So we'll see in the spring. Maybe he gets some starts at shortstop, maybe play some second, outfield, maybe. We'll get those reports too pretty early. The Shannon Dreyers of the world will be like, hey, Ben Williamson's taking reps at second base today, or Ben Williamson borrowed, Julio's backup glove and he's getting some fly balls out in left field today. Like, if we start to see stuff like that, then I think we can start talking about Williamson as a viable, utility guy option. But until then, I think he has to be behind Rivas, and I think he has to be behind Mastrobuoni for that specific role, maybe even behind Ryan Bliss, because Bliss is just a better athlete and honestly better bat. So, and as a strict super utility like that Dylan Moore replacement, I don't know if Williamson's in the top 3 or 4.
Yeah,
based on the way the roster is right now, but we'll see.
Yeah, right now Williamson's path to making the roster is the Mariners don't get anyone that can play third base with any sort of regularity, and he's the everyday third baseman to start. That also means that Cole Emerson doesn't make the club out of camp.
Right. The one good thing about the World Baseball Classic, and I say one, but like I like the WBC. I think it's fun. Yeah. I don't like my players participating in it. But the Mariners are going to have
the Drew Smiley thing.
Yes. Well, not only that, just even if that hadn't happened, I still don't love it, especially for my pitchers. But whatever. The Mariners are going to have a lot of guys participating, a lot of major leaguers: Julio, Randy, Munoz, probably Ref Snyder, Cal. We know for sure. Brash is probably playing for Canada. Naylor's probably playing for Canada. So there are going to be a ton of at-bats available this spring for these guys to prove themselves, and Williamson is one of those guys. Yeah. If he goes out there and he's pulling the ball with authority, don't look at the stats, right? We know stats in spring training don't mean anything. But if he's pulling the ball with authority, he's smashing doubles down the line. He plays some short, he looks pretty good out there. Maybe he plays some left and he actually looks functional out there. At that point, then it's like, okay, the Mariners might have something here. He will get his opportunities to show them something that he deserves to be on the opening day roster, mostly because the WBC is a thing. And he'll have to take advantage of it. But if he doesn't, he should start the year in AAA because he really doesn't provide much value off the bench based on the player we saw last year.
All right, well, that is going to do it for our show. Thank you so much for joining us here on the Locked On Mariners podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. For Colby Patnode, I'm Titan Gonzalez. Be sure to give us a follow on Twitter at LO_Mariners. You can follow me at Titan Gonzalez and Colby at CPAT11. That's CPAT11. We're also on Blue Sky. You can follow me at TDG, Colby at MLB Colby, and the show at Locked On Mariners. You can also find us on Instagram at Locked On Mariners. Have yourself a beautiful baseball day, and we'll see you next time. Peace.